Welcome to the Breath of Fresh Air Dental Podcast. Whether you're a seasoned practice owner, a new dentist, or an office manager looking to enhance your skills, this podcast is for you. Our friendly and knowledgeable hosts are here to answer your burning questions, address common pain points, and provide practical solutions to help you overcome any obstacles you may face. Our hosts, Amanda Demora and Sarah Hamlin, bring to the table lengthy careers in both clinical dentistry and practice administration. They now preside as the CEO and COO of Essential Dental Services.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Breath of Fresh Air podcast. I'm Amanda Demora.
And I'm Sarah Hamlin.
And today we're going to do a little chat about a little pulse check on the dental billing space. But before we get into that, Sarah, what's the state of affairs over there at your homestead in Washington State?
Yes, let's check in. It's been a bit, but I feel like that's kind of just like summer for everyone, right? Like it's just flying by. Things are so busy. I just asked my kids yesterday, we're taking a little break from swim lessons and everything, like right before school starts. We're just going to have like 2 weeks of straight like summer chill time. And I said, are you guys excited for that? And my 6-year-old daughter goes, yeah, just so we can catch our breath a little bit.
I suppose that tells you something, right?
Like, what? Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were 25, first of all. And second of all, I guess everybody is really feeling that we need to catch our breath. So it is smoky here today in Washington, and I haven't been like outside enough to see if I can smell it, but I can see it. You know, the sky is just like that different color, and the sun just looks whatever. We've got a lot of wildfires going on in the state. Thankfully, nothing super close to us, but it's just that time of year, unfortunately. What about for you?
You're dealing with smoke, and we are bracing for hurricane or tropical storm, whatever, Debbie to roll through.
She's
tonight.
made her way all the way up to you?
Right. I think she's in New York right now. So blowing over to Massachusetts and New England tonight into tomorrow.
Oh my
so
goodness.
I love storms. I don't want to lose power. I love hurricanes. I don't want any limbs or trees coming down. There's some caveats. I love these things, but I don't want to be inconvenienced.
We don't need any human limbs coming down either. So let's just...
human limbs either.
Oh my goodness.
So,
yeah, that is crazy. Okay, well, exciting times for you.
Right. And then that's about it. We don't have anything really planned for the rest of the summer. My little guy is going into this cute little preschool program kind of right at the end of the month. And I am very excited about that. I was super excited to as you know, buy school supplies, even though he doesn't really need any. I was buying them for myself, but I did have to get him a little backpack, and I just thought that was like so cute. And I was so excited to buy it, and like the little snack box and all that.
Yes.
Stuff.
Yep. These are milestones. Exciting.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, let's jump in. So I kind of wanted to do a little bit of like a mid-year pulse check, I guess, on the dental billing space and just kind of what we're seeing day to day in a variety of outlets and spaces. The first, we were kind of deciding on what to talk about today, and I said, what about like Facebook groups and what we see on there and stuff like that? But I feel like we probably wouldn't be able to talk about, well, I don't know. Wouldn't be able to talk about that for too long, but one thing I've been seeing a lot in Facebook groups is the topic of claim appeal letters and how offices or individuals are really handling these. You know, are they sending an actual letter that they're typing? Are they just sending the chart notes? Are they doing some kind of combo of the two? Are they using a template for every single patient that isn't necessarily specific to that patient? You know, there's a lot of things. So when you send a claim appeal, tell me what you do, because I really don't think they're I mean, there is a wrong for sure, but I think there's a lot of ways to do it right too, or a little combo of it to get the claim paid. I mean, if the claim is getting paid, there's something's happening that's good there.
So in my eyes, if you are sending an appeal letter that legitimately includes some kind of information that was not included in your chart note, then your chart note is probably not up to snuff. Right? There's not going to be anything that I can think of that your doctor's going to be able to add in a month after the treatment was done that wouldn't be included in the chart note. So I think maybe, consider that, like what's missing from your chart note to require this appeal anyway, so that you guys don't have to keep going back and doing appeals for this same procedure in the future. So definitely take it as a learning opportunity, I would say. In my experience, most of the actual appeal letters that I have had to write or help doctors write is actually kind of dissecting the chart note and like organizing it in a different or like more clear way to be like, as you can see, the patient was seen here and they did have this much bone loss documented by this, like kind of organizing it differently or making it more clear to whomever is reviewing the claim that you did send over the information that was needed, like restructuring it. So that's kind of how I've always used appeal letters, but I don't know, what's your thoughts?
No, I agree. The notes need to be up to snuff, and I don't want to say a lot of offices aren't. Well, that's probably true. A lot of offices probably aren't. But it's very important to, notate the medical necessity, if it's decay, how much tooth loss are we talking here? Those are all kind of key words. I do write a custom appeal letter that is, I'm typing it in Microsoft Word or whatever now. This used to be very time consuming back in the day. I still did it, but now it is super easy. I use ChatGPT, but that is supplemented with what is in the chart note. So actually, I did one recently that was kind of exactly what you said. It was detailing the whole process a little bit more. This was all laid out in their chart notes, which I did attach, but it was, on such and such date at this patient's hygiene visit, this was notated. 2 months later, we saw them again for a limited evaluation or, some kind of emergency visit, and this is what happened. And then you're documenting the procedure a little bit. So I just have seen, I try to go with what I've had a lot of success with. And that is what I have success with, is a bit of like a quote unquote old school appeal letter sent to, if you can track one down, an appeals address. And a lot of insurance companies will list those right on the EOB. And I try to keep those in an organized spreadsheet too. So that is what I like to do. And then obviously I'm including the chart notes. I usually include a new claim and x-rays and intraoral images if needed. And like I said, I just have had a lot of success with that. So I'm going to keep rolling with it. Now, I especially don't mind because ChatGPT has made it so easy for me. I mean, I'm writing, what's in the chart notes. I'm writing who the insurance company is, who the doctor is, and it's literally fabricating the whole entire thing for me in a much more eloquent way than I could have worded it myself. So that's kind of my process. What I also see on Facebook groups is people suggesting, let's just say for core buildups, hot topic. I feel like we talk about this a lot. They say, oh, I just write that there was, 70 or 80% tooth loss and they needed a core buildup. I write that on every claim and I never have a problem. Well, if that's not actually true with that particular patient, you just can't do that. And if they ever do want to look at your chart notes and that's not there, that's very problematic. So I don't really like to use templates, period, especially in this day and age with ChatGPT. it's so easy to start from scratch. So that's kind of my
the other
my
thing I would add,
process.
speaking of what we've seen on Facebook groups, I just saw very recently somebody was talking about trying to get something paid. I can't remember what the service was, but somebody commented, I finally got so fed up with reprocessing this claim and sending it in that I wrote in the remarks section that if the reviewer would pull their head out of their bleep, then they'd be able to see that blah, 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 blah. And this person actually put the word. She's like, and I actually wrote that on the claim and sent it in. And guess what? It got paid within 5 days or whatever it was. And I'm just like, I'm all for the tactics, whatever's going to work to try to get these claims paid. But I also think, I understand the frustration. I understand that we feel like there's games going on and it's a lot of work to make these things happen. But there's also a level of decorum and professionalism and just general respect for humanity that we just probably should be abide buying, because at some point these letters are going to be read by a human. The reviewing dentist is really going to read this, and I'm just not sure why we think that cursing at them or being disparaging about them is going to get us the solution that we want. Maybe we should just be saying please and thank you and being courteous and understand that they're doing their job and we're doing our job. And, sometimes that's a challenge, but that doesn't mean we get to treat people disrespectfully. My goodness.
I feel like I just heard somewhere that, as we know, some offices get a bit flagged from the insurance company, meaning, more of your claims might get denied than another office. And I actually feel like I heard someone say that writing things like that or being super rude could possibly put you on the naughty list. Now, I'm not sure if there's truth to that. I don't work at an insurance company, but, I kind of believe it a little bit.
Yes, and I just feel also, we should consider the weapons essentially that they have in their arsenal to get back at you for cursing at them are probably pretty decent. They could make your life a lot harder than it is. So maybe just keep that in mind when you're choosing to, curse at them or whatever you're trying to do. I don't know.
I also
just
think
seems unnecessary.
Right, it is, and that's just not my personality, but I also think it's a bit naive for people to think that insurance companies are not in these Facebook groups. So they definitely are, and they're definitely looking at some of these questionable tips and tricks that people are posting about and kind of openly admitting to fraudulent behavior. So I would just be careful. My kind of stance on Facebook is I really only try to respond or answer someone if I know something to be 100% truthful. Now maybe some people do think what they're saying is 100% truthful, but, hold back on those thumbs a little bit sometimes.
Yes, on Facebook and on your claim form. Just a little restraint.
Yes, for sure. A little restraint will help us all. All right, next, speaking of, kind of claims processing here and what kind of goes on behind the scenes at the insurance companies, I wanted to talk a little bit about AI. And I was, reading just some statistics and things. And this was published in 2023, but it was from 2022. And that was from the NADP. And that was 25% of payers are currently using AI in radiograph review. I have a feeling since this was, 2 years ago, this is quite a bit higher now. But just like offices are utilizing, tech like Pearl and other radiograph tools, insurance companies are too. and they x-rays need to meet certain criteria for claims to just slide right through and get paid the first time around. And a lot of time, I've been seeing a lot about SRP, quadrant scaling here, and lack of bone loss really kind of those claims rearing their ugly head for denials right now. And I do think that's true for sure. So be aware of that. If your documentation and your x-rays and your intraoral photos are really painting the picture and proving the code that you put on that claim form happened for a medical necessity, you're going to be fine. However, we know that is not always the case.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think there's also, I don't know. I've seen so many people and so many offices just really like beat their head against the wall trying to get claims paid when, the verbiage of the plan document for this insurance plan, like quite literally says bone loss must be, visible on radiograph, or X amount of bone loss must be visible, whatever. And so even if, as a clinician, you feel like SRP was warranted on this patient for XYZ reasons, if bone loss on a radiograph was not one of those reasons, then it's probably not going to get paid no matter how many appeals you send in, no matter what intraoral photos you have, no matter what perio charts you have. Like all of these arguments that you have to say, well, they still needed SRP, it doesn't matter if the plan document explicitly says they need a certain thing that you're not providing. And I think it's really hard as clinicians, but also as office staff, whatever, to not take these things personally, right? Because it feels like an attack on you, saying you misdiagnosed this patient, or you thought this treatment, you said that this treatment was needed and it wasn't, and it's hard when patients are hearing that, and all of those things. There's a lot of personal feelings, a lot of emotions involved, but really what you have to kind of take a step back and just say, it really is just, they're looking at these things that are printed in this plan document that whomever decided, probably HR or, however far up the ladder it goes, somebody else decided that this verbiage was important and needed to be included. And, it just is, we're fighting a losing battle if we're going to try to fight against what the plan document says, unfortunately. So just keep that in mind too. It's not a personal attack on you and your treatment planning and your ability to treat your patients. It's just literally what the plan document says.
And I tried to stress to them that, listen, I want to squeeze everything I possibly can out of your insurance, and so that you have to pay less out of pocket. And I do think that patients really appreciate that for sure. And there were many times I had to get patients involved too, with the process, and I kind of had to keep them posted on how things were going, in particular for larger things, right? Not simple cleanings, even though I would appeal those too, but larger treatment plans. So, and that can be tough, especially when patients are getting their EOBs too, and they're calling saying, hey, my insurance said that I didn't need this.
Yes. And
those are tricky conversations. Also, some conversations to be had on the forefront before this treatment has happened. And Sarah and I talk a lot about training your patients and wording how this whole insurance claim processing takes place, and how insurances can be, and that, just because insurance is saying one thing, they are not your dentist, and, sometimes they don't always have your best interest at heart there, like your dentist is going to. So that's all, like, as a part of a larger picture of patient conversations and quote-unquote training to start. All right. What else? Oh, what was I was going to say? Oh, I wanted to go back to claim appeals a little bit. I also read a statistic. I'm pulling out all these statistics, but it was like over 30% of claim denials are not appealed. They're just like, that's it, close claim, that's it.
Oh, boy.
I appeal everything. except for except if it is kind of a very straightforward, this service is a non-covered service under this plan. And a lot of times that's kind of, they had an option for a high plan or a low plan, a basic plan, or, you know, those things through their employer, and they're choosing the basic plan. And guess what? Crowns aren't covered. I'm not going to appeal that. But pretty much anything else I'm willing to appeal, and I feel very, very good when that check comes in or EFT.
Yeah.
It's very gratifying, and I really always love doing that on the patient's behalf too. And I tried to stress to them that, you know, listen, I want to squeeze everything I possibly can out of your insurance, and so that you have to pay less out of pocket. And I do think that patients really appreciate that for sure. And there were many times I had to get patients involved too, you know, with the process. And I kind of had to keep them posted on how things were going, in particular for larger things, right? You know, not simple cleanings, even though I would appeal those too, but larger treatment plans. So yeah. All right. What else?
One thing I will say is, like, even if you're not going to like full on appeal, quote unquote, a claim that comes back denied, the one thing that I will always across the board do is, like, even if I sent in a crown claim and I sent in pre-op PA, intraoral photo, chart notes, whatever, and it comes back denied, the very first step of my appeal process, quote, quote, is to reach out to the insurance company and make sure that they got the attachments. And I will say this to people, and they will be like, yeah, well, I sent the attachments. And I'm like, that does not mean that the insurance company received them. Like, how many times have we called an insurance company to be like, I just want to make sure that you received the attachments? And they're like, no, I don't see anything attached here. And you're like, well, here's the NEA number. And they're like, oh,
and then they find them. Yes.
Yeah, I find that number. It just wasn't attached. Let me send it through for reprocessing. Like, at the very least, if you're not going to do, you know, a full-on appeals process, at the very, very least, just make sure that the attachments that you sent were received. That's the bare minimum, at least, to make sure you're kind of not, you know, skipping out on money. But yeah, I think if you've got all of your attachments and you've got a template letter or something that you can quickly send back, like, what does it maybe take, like a 15 or 20 minute phone call? I mean, obviously we're hoping you're not on hold for more, but really, hopefully only 15 to 20 minutes of your time to get what, $600, $700, $800 out of the insurance. That's a big deal for patients and for the practice too. So, you know, just decide what's worth your time. But I think at least one phone call to the insurance is probably worth it.
Definitely. And I feel like even with our clients, you know, at EDS, I think when we kind of get in there and we start looking around, I think we really do see that there is kind of little appeal process for a lot of offices out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not positive how that goes over with patients, but all right, speaking of patients, I want to talk a bit about trends and best, you know, processes for patient payments. And I feel like when Sarah was in office, she had a really good patient payment process that I don't want to say was like very particular to Open Dental, because I don't think that's true, but Open Dental is such a good software. Yes, I said it. That it makes this way easier. So I want you to tell me and the listeners what your process kind of was there.
Yes. Also, I just wanted to say, like, even if you're not sending, even if you're not following this, you know, protocol for patient statements, like, please just at least be sending statements. Like, even if you only know how to do it once a month out of your software, even if you're only doing it by paper, like, just please be doing something. I just told Amanda before we started recording that I talked with an office recently who told me that they had been in practice for 14 years, 15 years, and had never sent out patient statements. And I just cannot imagine, like, the money that must just be going uncollected for them. And now it's so much harder to clean that mess up from the backside. Whereas if you're just trying to at least send them out regularly, just at the bare minimum, once a month, please be doing that for yourself.
We were that is not the first, second, third, fourth, fifth time. I mean, we see that literally all the time. For some reason, we're always very shocked and amazed when we hear it from another office. But it is so common. I can't wrap my head around it. I have a lot of questions, but anyhow, let's go through a streamlined patient billing process.
Yes. So my thought for statements was to obviously get a good statement schedule in place. We didn't send statements the same day that claims closed, but we sent them every week. So on Thursdays at the end of our week, we would run statements for everybody who had a claim close for that week. And then we would run statements or run our list of patients who were due for a statement at that time. And then they immediately start falling into the schedule. So then 2 weeks after they got that first statement, they get a statement by text. And then 2 weeks after they get that statement by text, they get another paper statement and email statement sent at the same time. And then 2 weeks later, another text or phone call, kind of depends on what your patient base is, another text or a phone call. And then 2 weeks later, they're getting their final paper statement and emailed statement. So now we're at the 60, 90-ish day mark. And then from there, proceed into whatever collections, adjustment, procedures you're going to do. The reason that this can get mucked up is if you don't have a good schedule in place, or you've got somebody doing this who doesn't understand okay, the people that I sent a statement to 2 weeks ago need to be sent a statement today, but that's not necessarily the report that you're pulling from your practice management software. You have to keep track of who got them 2 weeks ago versus who's due for them now. So it can get a little bit confusing, but if you get a good process in, if you can figure out how to do it in your practice management software, it's really good, because then by the time people reach collections, without a doubt that they've received 3 paper statements, 2 texts, 1 phone call, and you can feel good about reaching out to them about collections or adjusting off or whatever your processes are, knowing that you really did your due diligence to try to collect on this balance. And, I've talked about this before, but I will beat this dead horse a little bit more, just to say include multiple ways to pay the statements. Remove those barriers of the patient having to call in during your office hours to make a payment. They can mail in a statement by check if they really are wanting to do that. They can scan a QR code to take them to your website where you have a link to pay. They can pay by text. They can pay by email. All of those are options that if you can provide them with little to no cost to you, then why wouldn't you, to try to facilitate these payments coming in as frequently and as barrier free as possible.
So you did paper statement first, not text statement first.
Yes. So mine was on the Thursday that we were processing them first, was a paper statement and an email statement that same day. So they got both at that first time. And, the practice that I was in did have a skew a little bit older clientele, I think, for some of them. And so paper statements were still what a lot of them were wanting. So we kind of leaned into that. But I think if you've got a younger patient base, paper statements aren't necessarily the wave of the future by any means.
Right. I've had several younger, I'm talking early to mid 20s patients kind of say I will never be opening paper mail. So if you want me to pay this, you need to email it or you need to text. Yeah. And there's a lot of great platforms out there for this text to pay, and some multiple of patient communication platforms like Weave and RevenueWell and Vine and things have these features, which are great. And they have all kinds of little filters you can put on. So, okay, I want to send a statement to this pool of people, but don't send one to anyone who's gotten one within the past week or whatever parameter you want to put on it. So you can really finesse it a bit to what you're looking to do. And I do kind of agree that a mix of paper and text and email should really be sufficient. And then, I did find that phone calls at a certain point, like getting to the point more towards the collections people were like, oh, once they kind of talk to you, if they pick up, which I always wonder why people pick up. Because unless they think like they have an appointment, like I am not really picking up.
Yes. But that was what I heard usually on those calls was people would be like, oh,
no idea.
Yes. Or either that, or I have that bill sitting here. I mean to pay it. I just haven't. Or we moved and I didn't update my address with you. Like, most of the time I would say give people the benefit of the doubt because they're probably not avoiding paying their bill. Like they probably just had something come up like that. So I do think a phone call, and also, this goes back to a friendly, polite, no curse words, not being mean kind of phone call, is definitely, I think it can be effective in that process. Do I think you should be calling once a week or anything? Of course not. And, also be aware that some states have laws about collections processes and how much you can reach out and all of those things. So, be mindful of that. But I think at least one phone call in the process is a good thing.
For sure. And I think once patients, they kind of hear your voice, and at this point they know, like, oh, I'm sort of on someone's radar. The rest has sort of been automated, but now I'm on someone at the office's radar, and, they don't want to be on the naughty list, and I've just had a good amount of success with them paying after that. So I agree with everything kind of Sarah said. Get a payment link on your website. Make it easy for them. I like to mail, when I'm doing paper statements, get a QR code that takes them right to your payment page on there. So it's making it nice and easy for them. All of the things. You just got to get all of the things going. I actually saw in a Facebook group the other day, and I suppose this really is like demographic specific, but someone said, oh my gosh, you accept paper checks? I haven't done that since blah, blah. So many of them bounced or whatever. And I'm like, at my practice, which I'm at for almost 20 years, like I can count on one hand the times that, checks bounced. I think that's probably a little more demographic specific. But I wouldn't stop accepting checks, I guess. I mean, if someone's trying to pay you got to try to let them pay you.
Right. Yes, I agree.
I have heard of offices being cashless too, like no cash, because you might not have change or whatever. Kind of get
and
that.
Just like the safety of having cash on hand in the office. Like I think for some people, that's the concern is somebody's going to come try to, steal the cash, or increased embezzlement concerns having cash in the office, I guess.
Or employees are perhaps taking it home, or other things like that.
Yeah.
Besides those things, are we noticing any kind of like other trends? What about like hiring trends?
Everything that I'm seeing is still the same unfortunate, like, I can't hire people. I'm having people not show up for interviews, or I have them through interviews and they seem great and they're not showing up for their first day of work. Like, I don't know when that is going to stop. It's still hanging around, unfortunately.
I'm thinking never. That's what I just am.
And you know what I was going to say about these trends is, like, unfortunately, all of these trends, if you're in the business long enough, it's kind of like fashion trends. These dental billing and dental office trends, like they all just recycle. Once you've been in it long enough, you've seen it happen before, and it might have happened like 10 years ago, so some circumstances might have changed, but these always just kind of come right back up. They're the same things we've always dealt with before. And, we'll get through them. We'll figure out how we trudge our way forward. But it's not really surprising that they're coming back up because they came back up before at some point.
I feel like I see a lot of the same as well, which is clinical members wanting to transition into the remote billing space and wondering how to do that. And we do have a podcast episode on that, which still all of those things stand true. All of the courses we mentioned are still going on. And I think still the leading courses that I would point anyone to. So go listen to that if that is kind of something you are interested in. Sarah and I do, and some other friends of mine who own dental billing companies, talk a lot about just the lack of basic writing skills that are going on resumes. And I'm not sure if it's because I don't think I'm that old. I'm not 40 yet. Yeah.
When you paused, I was going to say old, but I didn't want to say it if that's not what you were going to say.
Old, but I know
that
Sarah and I took resume writing courses, or it was part of another course, both in high school and college. I can't imagine that only went on in our high schools and colleges.
Yeah.
So what has gone on there? There's just I don't want to say no one, but very, very rare that we see an awesome resume. And I don't mean that in terms of like talent. I mean that in terms of it has a great layout. It's just...
Or it's just presenting themselves well. Like, even if the layout is simple, and even if there's no bells and whistles, and even if it's not made on Canva, like a resume can still be great in the words and terms and bullet points that you're using to showcase yourself, and the way that it's structured so that I can clearly see the last 3 jobs that you had and your skill set and whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be something super fancy, but it does just need to showcase you in the best light. And I feel like so many people really are just not doing that, unfortunately.
I feel like I could apply to be a mechanical engineer and get a resume going that was like, wow, maybe we should give this person a chance.
With no mechanical engineering skills.
No, okay, maybe not that extreme, but I feel like there are definitely tips and tricks to showcase your talents and courses that you've taken and achievements and things like that. And people just are not, I mean, maybe they don't have any, I don't know, but people just aren't putting those on there. Resume, Sarah, you were talking about the resume in all caps. Was that it?
Oh yes, it was in size like 16 font, and it was bold. Like everything, like it was barely fitting like maybe 6 or 7 like lines of text like on like half of a page. Also, it just felt very aggressive to me. Like that is the elder millennial in me, but I was just like, this resume is like yelling at me. Like, jeez.
Yeah, no, just don't do that. And purple, like, no, just none of that. They're just, I don't know if people need to YouTube how to get a proper resume going on. Oh, wait, yes. Do we have an episode about that too? I think we do.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
our
we
very
do.
first one. But also, I think why it bums me out is because I really just kind of sometimes sit here and wonder, like, am I really truly missing out on a great candidate? Am I missing out on somebody who could really make our company better? Am I missing out on somebody who could really use like our company in their lives and we could really use them because of this application? And the honest to goodness truth is, like, yes, we probably are missing out, but I don't know how we're supposed to see past the resume or spend time, that's the point of a resume, is so that we don't spend time interviewing people who, aren't a good fit. But I can't tell if you're a good fit if your resume is not a good fit, then I assume you're not a good fit, unfortunately.
I agree. I think you said that on that podcast episode. Like, this is a representation of you as a person and you as a potential employee. It needs to look polished and stand out and make you look good. And if it's not, you will not be being reached out to. And I actually think about that all the time. Like, am I being too picky, or am I missing out on someone? And you're right, we absolutely are. But I mean, we can't reach out to every poor resume.
Yep.
Yep.
And just, yep.
Another thing we also have been seeing too, this isn't necessarily new, but anytime we sort of make a job posting, we get just like random emails that are just like, hello, please tell me more about the job. Like, or Facebook messages that kind of say the same thing too. Hello, I'm looking for a position. You kind of have to go through a proper application process.
I like the ones too. And, maybe honestly, this is just our business and what we're doing in the applicant field and our remote billing field is, I feel like, a little bit different than when you're looking for applicants in other positions sometimes, because we usually have a huge interest and obviously a large pool, because it can be remote, can be from all over the country. So that obviously increases that. But what cracks me up is we post something on Facebook and then somebody messages in the comments, mind you, in 30 comments that other people have commented, and they comment in there and they're like, DM me.
Oh, yes.
Unfortunately, yes. I'm not going to be DMing you.
Just bizarre. I don't know. What is the etiquette here? I don't know. It's just crazy. It's totally crazy.
Again, with our tangents about being old, that's probably really what it all comes down to, is we're just getting old, and we're probably whining and complaining about old people things, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I think sometimes applications and even just people reaching out to us, it is a bit casual, or they feel it is. And, EDS is a larger company at this point. It's not just two of us who have the time to sit down and go back and forth and chat with people on DM. I mean, there's procedures and policies and systems in place, and applications are in that same category.
Yes.
So DMs, so sorry. That can't be a way to apply or hear more about the position.
Yes, unfortunately not. We're not that hip, unfortunately.
Nope, we're not. I wonder, are the youngins doing it different? Is it like, who knows what goes on?
As we clearly established, you're asking the wrong person.
Maybe it's like a TikTok thing or something. Who knows?
Maybe that TikTok. I've heard of that.
I've just been waiting for TikTok to get banned, only so I don't have to get on it. Like, I've tried my hardest to see what it was all about, and there's only so many applications I can keep up with. I kind of feel like I'm missing out, though, for sure. I do feel as though I'm missing out, but
if you enjoy being productive with your time, then maybe just stay off of TikTok. It'll suck you in eventually.
Right, as it is, I'm spending quite a bit of time on my phone, so I don't need that weekly report that's sent to me by Apple every Sunday to say that I've been on there for 10 hours a day.
Your weekly report of shame. Right. You have to feel worse about it.
Sometimes I'm looking at that, I'm like, how in the world was I averaging, I think the last one I thought was 5 hours a day. How? I need to know how that is. I don't believe it. Is it like if I was taking a webinar or if I was, I don't know. I don't like it.
I like that you're giving yourself the benefit of the doubt. I must have had 5-hour-long webinars this week.
That was all educational. That was not Instagram or scrolling Facebook.
Oh my gosh. That's funny.
Okay, all right. I think that's about it. Some things that I'm looking forward to in the billing space, I think, is more technology. EDS has integrated some really cool tech with insurance verifications and payment posting that we've been integrating with some of our clients, and looking forward to doing more of that in the future. I pre-ordered my 2025 CDT code book, and I can't wait for that to come in because that's my little baby.
I was just going to do that. I'm waiting for the 2025 Coding with Confidence to be ready to go so I can just order them all together.
Little bundle situation, yes. I'm anxious to see, there's new codes coming up. In particular, I want to see where the Botox code goes. And, insurance coverage, where that goes in the future with Botox for, therapeutic reasons and maybe not, and how that all kind of plays out. So, yeah, those are some things that looking forward to at the end of the year, 2025.
For sure. I can't believe we're already looking towards the end of the year. I'm mad at Amanda because she's not going to be joining me this year, but have the ADOM conference coming up here in September. So that always kind of for me signals like we're headed towards the end, where I have that conference, and then it is kind of feels like reminding patients that they have benefits left for the end of the year, checking out the new codes that are coming in the new year, making sure holiday schedules are all ironed out. We're rapidly approaching that time where we just gotta make sure we've got it all in line before everything gets here. Yes, which we also have an episode on.
Really, this is the first episode I feel like we've talked about so many other episodes that we've done. Maybe that means we've got a few under our belt at this point. Yeah. But I am very bummed to miss the ADOM conference this year. I am very sad, and Sarah and I have really had a great time with each other these past couple years at it. But this year I am speaking at a dental summit in Hawaii the following week, and I'm very excited about that. And it was a very tough call, but too much travel for me with a toddler and also being pregnant.
Uh-huh.
So there's only so much I can handle there. And since I am in a geriatric pregnancy, I'm not sure that this body can sit on flights for that amount of time in a short window. So
soon this podcast is basically going to just be like Golden Girls, where we just sit around and complain about being old all the time. That's all. Never mind the dental billing. We'll just be talking about our age.
Oh man. But yeah, the ADOM conference looks amazing, and I hope some of our listeners are planning on attending it. Like I said, it's been so fun these past couple years, and I feel like we took away a lot from it, and also, just Sarah and I personally made a lot of memories there, which we reference a lot, in particular roller coaster rides that we went on at Universal and
yes, butterbeer, good times.
Butterbeer, things of that nature. So, okay. Thank you so much for listening, everybody, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Bye.